Hey y'all, and welcome back to the latest episode of Code Brew. I'm Joe King, and I'm here with my co-host, Lukewarm.
Hey everybody.
So, we are here for episode 13, and this is a pretty special episode. We've got our pediatric specialist. Very exciting. She's a child life specialist. She's our first non-nurse guest, but she's great at her job, and she's truly doing what the Lord made her to do. It's definitely in her niche.
I love that.
And it's really special also just because it's Child Life Month and she's a child life specialist. So with us today, we have Sunny D, and she's going to introduce herself and talk about her background.
Hey everyone, Sunny D here. I am a certified child life specialist. I've been certified for 4 years through the ACLP, which is our accrediting body, and I hold a master's degree. Actually, people are surprised that I actually have a master's degree. It is in child and family studies. So child life specialists, we are educated, and our backgrounds are typically in some type of child and family development, psychology, things like that. So yeah, I'm excited to dive in more about child life and how we can help our amazing nurses, and also how we help pediatric patients and their families navigate healthcare.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a whole real specialty. You're a very valuable member of the team. I personally have gotten to work with you in the emergency department setting where where we had kids who were being treated for emergencies, and really like bridging the gap for these kids, like standing in the gap for them, and making the whole situation a little bit more pleasant, even though it's obviously not a great day for them, right? So, and I always felt like you were, and I mean, staff morale is also a thing, but the kids who were coming in emergency situations were scared. Medicine is very scary for them, right? And you were able to be that calm in the storm for them, and that was really important. So that's why I thought it was really important for you to come on here so people know more about Child Life Specialists, that you exist and what you do and how important you are as a member of the team. Now, we do have another guest.
We do.
We have another guest. He's...
Oh my gosh. I was like, who? He's being so quiet.
Luke is here. Well, we might call him a silent partner.
I was just looking for him.
So G-Man is here. G-Man is a facility dog.
Yes.
And he is Sunny D's constant companion, pretty much.
Yeah, he's basically my coworker. He's one of my therapeutic tools that I can utilize with patients and families. So he was a born and bred service dog that was trained, and he works alongside me in the pediatric healthcare environment. We work on a med-surg trauma surgery floor.
Mm-hmm. So it's really important.
But you all are roommates.
Oh yeah, he sleeps in my bed.
Yeah.
So part of having a facility dog is that we care for them full time, and then they work with us full time.
Yeah.
And how many of these jobs are there? Because I think maybe people are going to want to get one. Like I want a job where I get to talk.
Can I find this on Indeed?
I wish. It's actually an up-and-coming field, and facility dogs in healthcare is a large thing that is very popular right now because dogs do a lot for not only the patients, but also the staff members as well.
Yeah, I worked... Sure. I didn't tell you this. I worked at a summer camp that did like animal assisted therapy. Horses. I mean, they had like llamas. I don't remember all the animals they had. But it was very interesting. Like we would go out and clean the animals, and we would ride them, and it was very calming to some very high energy children, we'll say.
No, yeah, for sure. No, I can see that. Well, G has a very calming countenance. Like his presence is very calming just in general. He's a yellow lab.
Yep.
And he's a handsome guy. Oh, is he behind me? Yeah. I thought you were under my feet. So, he is, what is he, 5 years old?
Yep.
And
he's been working for 3 years.
Yeah. He gets a birthday party every year.
He does. And typically the life of a working dog is about 5 to 7 years working in a healthcare facility. But as we know, I'm sure many people listening to this podcast, that healthcare is stressful. And so sometimes the dogs will retire early and they basically just become our glorified, well-trained pet once they finish working. And it's kind of up to the discretion of the handler and the institution where they come from when to retire.
Gotcha. So
Oh,
G lives with you. He is in many ways your pet, and he
Yes.
does normal pet stuff.
He
gets
does.
to go play and chase the ball. He loves bananas and other types of fruit.
Yep.
And what else? Tell us about G's personality.
am I supposed to be feeding my dog bananas?
Maybe.
Dogs love them.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen
He loves them.
peanut butter banana
Yeah.
treats. Oh my gosh, I'm supposed to be giving my dog fruit.
Oh my gosh.
I would say G is a very old soul. Most people think that he's older than he really is. He just has an old face, but he's very empathetic. He's a people person, which is why he did not get placed to be a one-on-one service dog, and he got placed to be a facility dog. So
Oh, so that's like the decision maker
yeah, they
post
evaluate
training.
them based on their temperament and their strengths. And G, his strength is definitely people and not one-on-one helping an individual.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I mean,
He wants to help multiple
Yes.
individuals.
he wants to be,
Especially if you have food.
the more people, the better.
She's running for governor.
I'm here for it.
Yeah.
I'm here
I'd vote.
for governor for sure. Well, we're really excited to have Sunny D and G here. And we're gonna go over kind of how a lot of this is gonna be about what Sunny D does as a child life specialist, but we're also gonna talk about what G does for the
Yeah.
kids that he serves, and also the staff. I mean, he
Yeah.
does a lot of things for staff. Like I said, both Sunny D and G are very important parts of the healthcare team in their facility. So we're going to go over that. So let's start out with what is a child life specialist? What is the role when taking care of kids?
Yeah, so we are psychosocial healthcare workers. Like I said, our background is typically in child development, psychology, or a related field. We help kids and their families cope with medical experiences, whether that's hospitalization, doctor's appointments, or any type of procedures, or anything related to healthcare. You can see us in a variety of different settings, whether that's in an inpatient facility, an emergency department, a NICU, a adult ICU, working with children of adult patients, and we are branching out into hospice as well as community-based settings, whether that's schools or private practices as well.
Oh yeah, I can see the value in so many of those settings. So you were the first child life specialist that I'd ever worked with. Whenever I came, but I've worked in mostly places that deal with adults. I'm an adult
Right.
specialist, right?
And I used to work in a pediatric facility within an adult facility.
Right.
So it had one side was pediatric emergency, the other side was adult. But if there were consults for children on the adult side, we would go and cover there. And we covered the whole house. So we would do pediatric patients on the inpatient unit and also children of adult patients in the ICU and other areas. So
Yeah, so I mean, people
Oh, children of patients. Oh, love it. Yeah.
so
Oh, that's helpful
providing comfort in situations.
for families as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, because children are affected by the illness of their parents or their grandparents or other caregivers, right?
right.
And then, my first encounters were with y'all were whenever you were, doing more of the staff morale
Yeah.
piece because
Rounding with the dog.
as ED nurses we we go through situations that are very trying and sometimes we just need to be loved on a little bit.
10 minutes.
With G-Man, with G-Man is he's real good at loving on people and just making the day a little bit better. So
Loves a good belly rub.
he does.
You know, I've rounded with a dog before, and it's kind of amazing. Everyone just stops what they're doing, and their face just becomes and then you see them just super positive when they leave, and it's they're spreading that joy that they got.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a reset.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's not something that you always see. So, in your facility, it might not be quite on the same level, but in our facility, which is primary adults, I mean, almost solely adults, there would be a huge bright spot.
Right.
There is there like a specific patient population or like a criteria for like animals? Is it, yeah.
Not not really. Infection prevention does have a lot of say over where the dogs can go and what type of patients they can see, which makes a lot of sense. When we were working in the pediatric within an adult hospital, we would go to the ICU, we could go on the unit, and we could see patients as long as they weren't on isolation. So we would see adult consults with a facility dog, which was great. And I think that's awesome. And now we work in a freestanding children's hospital. And so same thing, we can't see anybody in isolation precautions, but if they're not infectious, we can see them.
Yeah, I saw a dog. Did I tell you about the dog a few weeks ago that was like washing its paws outside of a unit? Like I guess like the handler, and they're at the sink and she's washing his paws and with soap and water, and then she's patting him on this towel on the ground or whatever.
Definitely not.
It was very, very interesting. I was like, this is the way we wash our paws, They counted to 30.
Wow.
I'm not sure if they counted to 30, but it was a glorious process to watch.
You got his paws after he comes back from playing outside.
Oh, yeah.
Before going into the hospital, but never that intense.
Never that. Well,
yeah. I mean, we see weird things.
We do see weird things.
Adult versus pediatric.
So, but I am interested. So, thank you for like clarifying like the patient population, and really interesting to know that the also family and family children, because that ICU dynamic, gosh, like when your parents in the hospital is so hard, especially like the criteria to get back and even see your parents in the hospital.
I mean, we can be pretty restricted for adult patients,
especially when you're really young. It's like, well, if they're not super critical, that visitation policy is, we're kind of keeping
14, something like that.
We're gonna keeping kids out of the ICU.
So we try to protect children,
right?
So we try to protect children. I mean, in the adult world, we try to protect children even sometimes when their parents don't realize the need.
Yeah.
I don't say they don't want to protect them. Right. I mean, I just don't think...
The trauma that it could cause, seeing someone that sick, and not understanding what all of those machines are doing.
And that's where certified child life specialists come in, because they are a resource. They're like, we call ourselves hospital teachers. So we kind of talk to kids about what's happening in the room. So for an adult patient, breaking down the equipment in developmentally appropriate language and talking about, your loved one, they look asleep, but their body has some medicine that's helping them stay asleep right now so that their body can heal. They can still hear you. You can still talk to them. So breaking down those things to make it less scary when a child is going into...
I feel like you do a really good job with that, probably. Yeah. Your voice lends to
I mean, she's doing
being able
to... You're truly doing exactly...
Communicate with children well. Also kind of interesting because I read 2 papers today, just for something else like teaching, and one of them was about art therapy, like in a hospital setting, and one of them was about music therapy with like dressing changes. So just interested that we have all of these resources, but just where we're going to stand, and what they do. So this is great that I'm able to. Find a third resource that we can use. I see it like when I'm, like documenting like pain response. It's like, what makes it better? And and I'm like, well, I mean, I did distract them a little bit, or like I did, I could reposition them, but like thinking about like the tools that you have, and it says meditation, and it says humor, like those are ways to treat music therapy, but we don't, sometimes we just think medicine as the answer to everything.
I mean, I think I noticed, being in grad school, and in MP school, like we talk a lot about what can we do from a non-pharmacological standpoint as part of our teaching, as part of our assignments and stuff. And I think sometimes as a nurse, we just completely forget about that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly.
Sometimes nurses are so busy with patient care, whether that's meds or you have a one-on-one or, you have this patient on all these drips or their watch or whatever. There's so many things that go on in the nursing world that you forget about all the other resources that you have for your patients. And that's why sometimes I just take a minute to check in with the nurse and be like, hey, how can I support you today? And that's important as well from a psychosocial standpoint.
Well, it's so different when you're dealing with a child. Because, they're not always cooperative, and it's not because they don't want help, it's because their fear takes over.
A lot of times, yes. And a lot of times it's also just not knowing what's happening to their body, and that's kind of where we step in too. I would say our primary roles in healthcare settings are that preparation and education. So preparing children for what's happening to their body or their loved ones if they're coming to visit in a hospital setting, adult hospital setting. We also provide, education about what's an MRI, what's an IV, what is chemotherapy, what is cancer, what is my new diagnosis of Crohn's or colitis. And we also provide distraction during painful procedures, whether that's a dressing change, an IV, finger poke, vitals. Sometimes vitals are hard for kids.
Yeah, even the simplest things we want to rush through, but it can be very scary, especially for the really small children, know.
And the last part of our job is play, so normalization of the hospital environment, and we use play as a tool for that, but play can actually be used for all of these things. So that is a lot of what we do. Is a lot of people see us carrying toys throughout the hospital, and they're like, oh, they're just the play people, like they manage all the toys, but toys and play is a tool for us to communicate with children. Play is the language of children, and so that is how they communicate. One of many tools, even G is one of my tools, having a facility dog. So I feel like people get that confused a lot. They think that we just do toys, but there's a reason we have them and use them.
I love that that play is the language of children.
It is.
That's pretty cool. I remember, because, that's not my specialty, right? I don't know, but I'm a mom.
Yeah.
Right? So I remember it's been a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, that my own son had a quick scare. He had spent the night in the hospital. And, because his glucose got low, and it was pretty benign, other than the fact that I freaked out as a mom and I forgot everything as a nurse, right? Because it just shuts down.
Yep.
But you talked to me about getting him something to play with.
Yep.
A medical kit, and we did that. And I have to say, it really did make a big difference. And it continues to make a big difference because, at first it was I got to give everybody a shot.
Yeah.
Everybody in the house got shots, right? And then it morphed into, we ended up having an ear problem, and then he wants to look in everybody's ears.
Yep.
And he has a great pediatrician who would look for a bird in his ear, and he made little bird sounds. And
Aww.
I love
that. So he was convinced he may still actually think there's a bird in his head. But so he's looking for birds in other people's ears. And so that is such a great point. We don't think like that.
No. And it's hard too when you're a nurse or any healthcare provider. You don't have the training that we do, and that's not a bad thing. You have more training than I have, right? I could never do half the things nurses can.
No, we don't have more training. We have different training.
Oh, different training is the way to say it.
Yes.
But I would say that child life specialists complement the skills of nurses because we allow you to do things to patients that you might not be able to do by yourself. I've taught nurses different skills or ways to say things because I'm not at the hospital all the time. I don't work night shift. So I think that we are a helper and we're a tool that nurses can have in their back pocket. Most facilities have certified child life specialists that nurses can use as tools in their back pocket. And also a lot of adult hospitals can have a consult service for child life specialists.
This is a good point. That's something I might take back. Because, it's not every day that we have somebody who is going through a really tough time that has kids, but a lot of our patients do have kids, and we don't even consider their needs. So that's something to think about for sure. So tell me about your training and education, right? You said you have a master's. How do you become a child life specialist? And there's probably people who are like, I didn't know this existed and now I want to be one.
Yes. So, I always tell people to go to the website for the ACLP, which is the Association of Child Life Professionals. It kind of breaks down everything I'm about to say. but you're required to have a bachelor's degree in psychology or any related field, child development, family science, anything like that. And you have to complete certain coursework that is taught by a child life specialist. Typically, that is like a death and dying class, that is a play class, a hospitalized child class, and then all of your development from birth to death. Then we recommend that you do volunteering, lots of volunteering with well children. And so that can be camps or after school programs, children who are in stressful situations. So like foster care or have experienced some type of like disaster or event. And then hospitalized children. So that healthcare experience is very important as well. Then you have to also complete a 600-hour clinical internship. Those are done pretty much every semester at any pediatric facility. You have to apply and interview and get accepted. Yeah.
So it's pretty selective. It
Yeah,
sounds like
it's
this.
just hard because if you think about having like a nursing student, that's a one-on-one thing. You don't have one every day, but our child life students typically stay for 16 weeks. They have 1 to 3 clinical instructors, and so they're with that person every day for 6 weeks typically. So it takes a lot for a program to take a student, so there's not as many spots at every hospital every semester. So it's
No,
hard.
I mean, there's not that many child life specialists.
Yep.
So there can't be as many students, and so they can be more selective, but I mean, it's very valuable. So I mean, I wanted to kind of get the word out.
Believe it or not, it's been around since the 1920s. I did some research. But the accreditation came around in the 1980s.
You said 1920, I still heard 2020. I was like, oh, 5 years. You're saying 1920, I'm like, yeah, like 5 years.
Yeah. So most people are like, I've never heard of this before. And that's because if you don't work in pediatrics or you don't have a child who's experienced a traumatic event or a healthcare encounter, you really haven't come across child life.
Well, and then, that the day when my son was in the hospital, he was visited by a child life specialist. They brought him a truck, which immediately made them friends because that is what he loves.
Yeah.
And, like he came home from the hospital with a toy, and I was like, what? I mean, because they were just giving them out.
Yeah.
Like
He got to keep it. So,
he did get to keep it.
Yes.
So, all this made me think. So, do you know about the Lego Foundation's donation of MRI scanners?
Yes, we actually ordered some for our facility, and you can get up to 10.
Okay, yeah.
Not 10.
I just looked at. So I heard about this recently, and I was like, hold on, where is this story? Because I know that this like exists. So it says in 2022. That's when this article's from. The Lego Foundation announced that it's going to donate 600 Lego MRI scanners to hospitals worldwide to help children cope with the uncertainty of having an MRI scan. So, obviously, we're in a really tight machine that's circular and enclosing stent, and it's claustrophobic, and it's super freaking loud, and adults that should maybe even have better coping mechanisms can't handle this machine.
So now I'm saying there should be an adult life specialist as well.
So I mean, it's really cool. Like it's actually like I'm looking at a picture of it, and it's actually
Build it, then
scanners there. There's actually like the room that the like the CT or the MRI tech is like working in.
I love it so much.
But yeah, so it looks like it looks like you can still apply for the program.
We just applied for ours, and they're wipeable, so you can use them with multiple kids. Because infection prevention.
Yeah, no, for sure. Oh my gosh.
And they are calling it a tool to put in
cool.
your nursing toolkit.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'm always adding things to my nursing toolkit. I got a few.
I heard an MRI is like 2 if they never had one.
Oh, come on down.
Yeah.
Build a Lego.
I love this so much. I love to see companies do things for the right reasons too. Isn't that great? I love Legos, period.
Yeah, what are you gonna... Can your cat teach anything? Your Lego cat that you just put together last week?
So that's how I've learned to focus studying.
Nice.
Is
Legos.
like putting together Legos.
Yeah.
I just put together like a life-size cat of my cat.
Yeah.
So
that's
it's
cool.
so it's calming. So it's calming, even without it explaining the procedure.
No, he's calming. No, it is very calming because the instructions are like pictures.
Yeah. That's
And
the
they
beauty
don't-
of Legos.
They don't require.
Oh my gosh! Instructions with words.
Yeah.
Yes. No, I don't want any words.
I don't want to words
Tiny
either.
details, your mind has to focus. That's diverting you from whatever other outside things you have going on. So
Yeah, no, it's great. Way to go, Lego. Okay. So tell me, let's talk about how children process things differently, because this is definitely like out of my realm of comfort, right? So we're stepping
Right.
out of my zone.
Right.
I want to step into your zone. I want to learn about how children process these medical situations so much differently than adults.
So we know that children their brains are developing. They're not fully developed, obviously, and they're in a lot of different stages of development when they enter a healthcare environment, and they come with the things that have gone on at home or the traumatic experience that has happened. And we say kids are resilient, but they're also vulnerable. So it's important to realize that the healthcare environment can impact them, even though we say kids are resilient. It's like, oh, whatever, that's a poke, they'll be fine 2 days later. But sometimes some kids are not. They're vulnerable to certain situations depending on their developmental level and also the traumas they've experienced outside the hospital setting. I think that kids also, they have a lot of this magical thinking that adults do not have. So we say the words like CT, and they're like, huh? What's a CT or a CAT scan, right? That's something we refer to that. And they're like
disappointed because there's not a cat.
Yeah, they're disappointed because there's not a cat. So this magical thinking kind of impacts their hospitalization because they get scared and nervous about what's happening, and the doctors and nurses are saying all of these big words to them and they can't comprehend. I mean, even some adults cannot comprehend these things too. So I would say that development really plays a role. So child life specialists are able to go into a room, and I know this child is 5, so I know that they're in this stage of development if they are typically developing, and I know the healthcare is going to impact them in this way, which they're going to be scared of bodily harm. They're going to be scared, with that magical thinking, and really understanding that this is not their fault. Most of the time, children get sick, everyone gets sick, and, have to come to the hospital at some point. So I would say that children process things differently because their brain isn't fully developed, and we really need people who break it down and explain things in their appropriate language.
Yeah, I'm like stuck now all of a sudden because I'm like, oh gosh, what's 3rd or 4th grade? What age is that?
Typically 8 to 10.
Isn't that like our education material for adults? Isn't it supposed to be written at a 3rd or 4th grade level? Yeah. So like for kids, I mean, like we can't even, I don't even know we can read below those grades. I mean, I guess like in kindergarten, like
you learn basics.
A little book or something with, pictures that run, but
so like,
that is a
we should be
pretty significant barrier where you're going to need pictures and play to get it across.
And like very
for the most.
I mean, you think some of these kids, I mean, you're talking to like a 2 or a 3-year-old and trying to help them understand, like, it can be really challenging.
Well, that's where play comes in too, because in development, those kids developmentally are not going to understand what you're telling them, like what an IV is. Right. So that's when you just have a doll or a stuffed animal with an IV and you play through it. Or you're just focusing on providing that distraction and that comfort during the procedure, and then afterwards play.
And you also, you make suggestions for nursing staff and stuff too. Like I know, I've seen you utilize the
there's different pharmacological and non-pharmacological pain management strategies for painful procedures. There's comfort positioning that we teach.
Yes. Or like different types of holds.
Yep.
I've seen you instruct parents on how to hold their child in positions of comfort.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. I mean, that gets the parent engaged. That's, should be like a safe person for that child, and that is really helpful. And and then I've seen this pharmacological. I've seen you the
J-tips. We love them.
Is that the little lidocaine gun thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's what it looks like to me. It sounds like
it goes like. Psh.
Yeah.
It's compressed
like a certain heavy.
Yeah, and it kind of like.
I've seen it. I've seen it.
It has like the cold.
Yeah.
It has like the cold, so they don't feel that.
They're kept in the fridge. Yeah. But they also can use freezy spray. Certain hospitals use freezy spray over J-tips. Buzzy Bee, which was developed using research, which is the gate pain control theory. It vibrates and has a cold pack for injections.
Okay.
Shot blockers are different things you can use. There's so many things out there, and a lot of parents aren't even aware, and we teach them these things. Like I've had parents with type 1 diabetics, their child's diagnosed with diabetes, and they're like, I'm ordering this, because you can get all of it on Amazon pretty much, besides like the J-tip, that's a pharmacy.
Right. Well, I mean, so by the time I met you, like I was, 12 or 13 years in. to my healthcare career.
And
I didn't know about this stuff,
yeah, right. And I think sometimes it's asking for, and also educating nurses on how to use it correctly. Like I have nurses who are like, well, the J-tip blows veins. And I'm like, well, have you learned how to use it properly? Because if you don't move the skin and you do it right on top of the vein, the compressed air is going to blow the vein. So,
but it's really cool. I mean, it's like, these are all really cool things. And the positions of comfort really work, and you don't think about.
So you're agreeing to hold me tonight?
I'm not. I'm not holding you tonight.
G has demonstrated the positions of comfort for staff to educate. So you could do it on one.
No, yeah. I mean, it's like, but you don't. For me, like, I've been that parent that was freaking out,
right?
And like a position of comfort, if someone had coached me on that, like, it probably would have helped me too as a parent. Like, okay, I'm helping. I'm helping.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying for somebody to come hold you.
I mean,
because I become a mom. I stopped being a nurse and I become a mom, and I get really anxious, and so that role is incorporating things that give everybody a job.
Everyone needs a job.
Yes.
And that's part of our job, is to give kids jobs. So it's like, I'm telling you, your job is to hold your arm still, but you can choose, do you want to watch the iPad or do you want to play I Spy? And then giving the parent the job of like, do you feel comfortable sitting here holding your child, or do you want to hold their hand?
Yeah.
Those types of things. Because if you think
about giving them choices. Giving the kids choices is great.
The whole
gives them
part
that sense of control.
Right. The whole part of our job is to provide choices in healthcare. So if you think about it, even adults lose the ability to have choices. Nurses tell them what to do. Doctors are telling them what to do. It's the same with pediatrics. And so giving that control back and the choice of, do you want to do this or this? Would you like this toy or that toy? What do you feel like doing today? Do you have questions for me? Those types of things are all things that we can provide.
That's awesome. So, we've talked about so many things. So many things that you're still teaching me stuff, right? Let's talk about G.
Yeah.
So we've touched on a few things.
Right.
So tell me what your role is as the handler.
Yeah, so not all child life specialists have facility dogs. I will preface with that. But child life specialists can utilize facility dogs to help patients cope with the hospital. As a handler, I'm responsible for all of his daily care. So grooming, feeding, picking up his poop, all the good stuff of having a dog. But I'm also responsible for his well-being at the hospital too. As we know, healthcare is stressful for not only the patient and the family, but the healthcare worker. As we know, healthcare burnout is on the rise. So dogs can't talk for themselves, so I have to set boundaries and speak for him. I had a situation today where this mom said, can you bring that dog in here? And I'm like, nope, unfortunately, it's the end of our day. We can see you tomorrow. So setting that boundary is really important as a handler. And also making sure he has fun at work too. No one wants to come to work and it be the same thing every day.
Yeah, it can be really stressful. Because so animals, they kind of take on the emotions of other people. He's not immune to the anxiety and the stress of the environment.
Yes, totally. And he can sense too, I think, when kids and families are more stressed, and he will kind of tune into that and be more calm. He's already really calm because he was trained to be that calm, but he can totally sense it, and especially our staff too.
Yeah, and you said he's really empathetic, so he's even more so really, really tuned into people.
Yeah.
So tell me, what does it look like whenever he's supporting a pediatric patient? What does a typical visit look like for him?
Yeah, so I will say that our hospital that we work at does not work on a consult service. There are some facility dogs that are consult based only. We work on a unit together, so we're a unit team. So we only see patients on that unit. Like I said, it's a surgery trauma floor. So we typically like to see kids who are here for a longer stay. They're not there for that just 24-hour post-op admission. infection, those kids are typically coping better than our kids who came in for, a ruptured appendix and they're going to be there for 5 days. So really, I just get information from the chart and also from our nursing staff about how patients are coping. And I'll round without G just to make sure that a kid likes dogs, if I think they're a good candidate and they're not allergic to dogs. Most kids are like, yes, 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 I have dogs at home. We know the power of pets and animals. But typically, I like to utilize him for those kids who have a more traumatic or stressful admission and are going to be here for a little longer. And also with my floor is getting kids up and moving with him, because we know that there are better outcomes.
Oh, great. Love that.
Mobility.
Yes.
I'm thinking petting from a chair, but
No.
yes, okay. And you
G has a scavenger hunt on the unit of pictures of him, so kids can find him around the unit. I'll encourage kids to move the pictures when we're not there on different days or nights. But, each visit is so different. A lot of times, too, for example, we'll help process different emotions related to the hospital. One of my favorite interventions that we do is taking a blank canvas and having kids write everything that they don't like about the hospital on the canvas. And then they use paint to put on the canvas. And then we take a plastic bag and we put peanut butter on the outside of the plastic bag. You place the canvas inside the bag and then give it to G to lick. So he spreads the paint over all of the things they don't like about the hospital.
Oh, I love that.
And it's also something for them to take home and to remember that positive memory about a hospitalization. Sometimes, too, it's even just playing ball in the hallway or playing. G is the doctor.
Yeah.
And kids can do things to him. So, I know we're going to get into this more, but I had a burn patient. I work with burn patients, and he wrapped all of the gauze on G, and he was putting Band-Aids on him, and he was telling them, G, I know this is going to hurt, but just take a deep breath. So he was using his coping skills with G. So seeing kind of, we really tailor our interventions on the patient and what they're there for and what they're struggling with. And a lot of that comes from my assessment skills, and that comes from my schooling and my experience in my clinical rotations as well.
Gosh, it breaks my heart to hear some of these stories, these kids who are going through burns and they've learned how to put bandages on and all that kind of stuff. And they're saying, I know this is going to hurt. Oh my gosh, that just breaks my heart,
Flip it to the great resources that are being provided.
The fact that y'all are you're really standing in the gap for these kids.
I mean, it sounds like positive coping, when I hear that stuff. So sucks, but to have all of those resources, it sounds like we're learning how to, effectively cope from these situations.
Things for these kids,
I mean, I am trying to figure out how to get adults to mobilize. Okay, you can go and hide these photos. I mean, what can I do?
I love that. I love
hide the salt packet. Hide the salt packet. If you get out there and walk that hallway, there's 2 salt packets.
I feel like we could easily do
ice cream
for adults. They would get in.
Yeah,
ice cream. I don't know, foods that they want.
Just be like,
Tell adults to move is food.
Tell the doctor, listen, I'll give him some ice cream. I'll get him to walk 500 steps. Literally what they might do in a week with physical therapy.
In the hallway, in the unit somewhere, you got to go find it. Ready, set, go. I hope it's not. If you heard,
it's a magic cup. It's a magic cup.
Listen,
it's not gonna melt.
Strategies learned here. Okay.
From
your friendly child life specialist
in my toolbox.
Yeah.
So tell me about G visiting the staff. What is he doing for staff morale?
Yeah, so because we are unit-based, every morning I check my census, read my charts, and I go up to my unit. I am always on my unit. I consider myself part of the unit family and unit staff, even though I don't share an office space with them. I round with G, so they have an opportunity to pet him or give him any treats that they might have brought him. I do allow that. I know every facility dog handler team is different, but I feel like it boosts morale between staff and facility dog and also boosts the dog morale. G is very motivated by food. Not all dogs are, which is surprising to me, but
that's okay.
Whatever. And we get, about what's going on the unit, who's going home, who had a rough night, who has what procedure, who's having trouble with this medicine, who needs to walk, things like that. We do have physical therapy. They use us a lot as well. So that's their time with G. And then they know to respect if he's working with the patient to ask the patient to pet, which is great. We've kind of done a lot of education with that. But then we know that not all of our staff at the hospital we work at has a unit where they work on that has a facility dog. Mm-hmm. So we started implementing yappy hours, which I actually got from another facility dog handler. Like that name, I kind of stole it, but it's fine. We're very collaborative in the child life facility dog world.
I love it.
And that we do twice a month. So we do night shift. We come in at 6 a.m. and we do night shift from 6 a.m. to 7:30. And that's very popular. Last month we had people waiting for us at 5:55 a.m.
Aww.
Because those are people who don't get to see the dog.
I mean, I would love to have a facility dog at our facility. So if we're able to, we may still yappy hours.
Oh, yeah. It's a great idea. And then we do a day shift one as well. We try to do it like after lunchtime or during lunchtime around, we know vitals are Q4 and meds are certain times. So we don't hit everybody during the day shift. But then the leadership team will also utilize our dogs during, hospital appreciation month or different things like that. They will collaborate a lot with us as well. And then G's birthday party is probably like the biggest event. I still have people talking about it. I think we had almost 90 staff last fall because that's an opportunity for everyone to come. And then we have multiple facility dogs too. My institution has like pediatric, and then there are also adult dogs that come, and then it's just
get
basically
that kind of engagement when they figure out free food. You show up for G.
Do you remember when we recorded our first podcast and they had it was finals week?
Yeah.
Do you remember all the dogs that they had there?
Yes.
They had 10
Yes.
dogs, and they're like going around like
They were in the library. It was finals week.
It's important.
So the line was insane.
It was just like cuddle up.
Like, I just want to.
Puppies are better than like a full-grown dog, so I would have to agree.
Oh, he's not listening.
We also try to hit Nurses Week hard as well.
Yeah.
Especially on my unit.
Well, that's fun for him too, because he gets to do like super fun stuff instead of
just seeing the patients all day.
Well, and I mean, it's got to be draining.
Yeah.
It really does.
But
he sounds like he's doing God's work.
Yeah, and he knows what staff members give him treats. It's quite hilarious.
Yeah. Well,
I have not given him any treats.
I've given him treats before.
Yeah, he loves food.
Yeah.
It's just fun.
I mean, yeah. So
Maybe a few.
So, okay. So what would you like nurses to know about child life specialists, and what are ways that you can work together to improve pediatric care?
So know that if you do work in a pediatric area, they're always available by like call or consult, whatever charting system you use. Mm-hmm. Typically, they work Monday through Friday. A lot of hospitals have weekend coverage. So I would just like nurses to know that we are a resource for them. We don't want to like step on your toes and tell you how to do something, but we have different training. So we do kind of know how to mitigate that trauma and to tell kids about the hospital in a developmentally appropriate way. Or maybe we have a new strategy that you haven't tried. We understand you develop relationships with patients and you're with that patient for 12 hours a day, and we are not. So sometimes even you tell us how that patient is. But knowing that child life specialists can help make your job easier. We're a support to nursing staff, and we are a resource to make your patients stay better and more enjoyable and less traumatic.
Yeah. That's awesome. I think you're such a valuable resource for sure. So, so you've given a lot of examples. Are there any other like real life examples of teamwork between child life specialists and nursing staff?
Yeah. So like you said, we work together in the emergency room, and that is probably the biggest time you see child life nurse collaboration is during those procedures.
It was huge.
Yeah, so providing that education about what an IV is or what sutures are, or during trauma choreography, being at the head of the bed and narrating everything for the patient. And that's a great example, providing that diversion too during the procedure so the nurse can get the job done and you can be engaged with the child, whether it's playing a game on an iPad or playing I Spy or squeezing a stress ball or doing deep breaths.
Trauma choreography. I like that term.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever heard it called that, but it is very choreographed.
Yes, everyone has a job.
Yes.
So
So
similar.
you stand at the head of the bed and you kind of tell the child what everything's happening.
Yeah, at my institution, that's where our position is. Everybody has a different spot for everything, but we are kind of at the head of the bed so that the child can hear us, because a lot of times if they're in a C-collar or they're intubated or what, they can't move. So explaining everything that's happening to them, things like that.
I like that. I've never done any pediatric trauma at all. 0 cases for me, and I would hope it stays that way.
Yeah, we're gonna keep it that way for you.
Yeah, that is not my thing. So, because my heart breaks for kids. So, maybe that would make me better at it, but I'll be taking it home every day.
Yeah, it's a big thing.
So, but the fact that you have somebody, I mean, I know how chaotic those rooms are.
Yeah.
I'm very well aware. We actually, the last 2 episodes were about trauma.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about it, and that you're standing at the head of the bed and talking about all the things that are happening that either they can't see or maybe they can hear. May sound super crazy. I mean, I know like we're yelling things out.
Yeah.
We're, out of necessity for purposes of charting and all that kind of thing. But no, I can imagine that situation is actually super terrifying. So that's awesome. I like that.
Another good example is med taking. As a nurse, your job is to give meds, make sure the patient takes them successfully. But we have a lot of tips and tricks to get kids to take, whether it's liquid medication, and we also do pill swallowing education. So if you're having trouble with a patient and you've tried all the tricks in your book that you've learned in clinical or in education, call your child life specialist. They might have something new that you've never tried before, or they might be able to make a sticker chart to make taking your medicine more fun, or provide prizes to reward the patient for, taking the X amount of medication, how many times a day. We can't do like pharmacy and make like, a med chart, but we can do things to make it more fun to take your medicine.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we might need to discuss how I can get my guy to take his medicine.
Yeah.
Oh goodness. So, do you have any stories for us?
I have so many. I shared that one about the burn patient.
Yeah.
I would say with G and I, that one also was more fresh in my mind. But I think that a lot of my stories have to do with G. For example, like even working. This is a good one for this podcast because it was with children of adult patients. When I was still working in that pediatric with an adult hospital, I was called to the ICU for 2 children visiting their mother who was dying. And I brought G with me because I heard they liked dogs and was able to utilize him to have the hard conversations that I was going to have with these children. So talking to them.
You actually had the conversation yourself.
Yeah, so a lot of child life specialists, we will work with the family to be like, what do your children know when they're coming here? What do you want them to know? Would you like to say it or would you like me to say it? But when you're working with children, it's important to use that clear, concise, concrete language, using words like death, dying, dead. We don't like the words passed away or, those types of things. They're very confusing to children.
Okay.
So in this example, the family wanted me to have those conversations and to just create a more positive experience for those children coming to visit. So I was able to do that alongside G, and he just laid on the floor with them outside their mom's room. And I remember I asked the caregiver if I could take a picture for G's social media, because we do that and we share a lot about our work. And I won't ever forget those moments of like being with a family during that really hard time in their life. But I like to think that it made a positive impact having G there and having me there to help process a lot of those emotions and those feelings and be able to say what they wanted to say to mom in their last times, like seeing her since they were withdrawing care. So,
yeah.
And even it's the simple, like, little moments as a child life specialist, like seeing a child's, like, body language when you go in and they're just sitting in a room that has no toys or the TV's off, or they are just, like, they're like, this place sucks, because most hospitals do suck. And then it's like, hi, this is what my job is. Like, what do you like to play with? Like, what do you like to do at home for fun? And then I'm like, that we have those things, or, we have a playroom, and then see that child light up and their hospitalization experience is completely different. Right. So it's even just those small moments and those small wins of like getting a child to take their medicine, and a parent had no idea you could put the medicine in applesauce. And be able to have their child take their medicine for the first time and successfully complete antibiotics. Like the small little things that I don't think about on a daily basis, or like a parent telling me that I deserve an award because I'm so good at my job. Like those are the small moments that I think make a lot of what I do worth it.
Well, I mean, that's how I describe you though, is like you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing.
True. You have said this to me many times, and I do love my job, but working in healthcare has its moments. You can take a lot home with you.
So that's it's actually not, I think all our listeners know we go by an outline. We do try to keep ourselves organized. This is not on the outline. This is a question for you.
Yeah.
So what are your healthy coping mechanisms? I know you run.
Yes, big runner. I find that is the one time that my brain completely turns off. I had a very bad bout of burnout last year after working with some high acuity traumas who were on my unit for quite a long time. And I found that starting therapy was very helpful for me because that was a safe place where I could process things and not have to lean on a coworker or someone else. But also I would say my other coworkers and my nursing staff, like sometimes just, sitting at the nurse's desk, venting with my nurses because they were in that traumatic experience or they were with that patient with me is super helpful for that coping.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've also learned to just focus on the wins. Like if you had a really bad day, think about one thing that made that positive experience with the patient, or write down the good comments that you get from patients or families and keep that on your phone so you can look at that when you have a bad day. And those are actually strategies I learned from therapy.
Oh, well, that's great. I mean, I feel like nurses really need to learn these things. And I know that you're someone that would be taking this stuff home. People don't realize that I take this stuff home a lot.
Even working in an adult critical care setting, you can take things home. You see stuff that people never see or not supposed to see. And it's important to take care of yourself. Burnout is real.
Yeah. That's what I wanted. That's why I asked that question. Yeah. I didn't think about it before when I was preparing. Yeah. But in the moment, I was like, man, I really want to know what she does. So therapy and running, and it sounds like
leaning on your coworkers.
I love writing down the positive comments so you can think about them again, because you don't want to lose that. You want to, and that helps. Not always something tangible, but they said it to you and it meant a lot at that moment. So write it down so that you can have that moment again.
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes when we have a bad day, all we focus on is the bad things that happened, but what's that one good thing that happened? And also, I think for nurses too, it's what one positive thing did I make happen in that person's day for them when I was taking care of them, is important to think about as well.
I think it is.
And remembering your why, those kind of help us remember our why. When we look back at those positive things that people have said about us in our work, that is oh, this goes back to why I did child life, or why.
I mean, you're truly, I think for you, at least to a certain extent, you should be able to see more than other professions, how you're really affecting people.
Yeah, we do.
You are making positive change. Yeah. So.
And I would say also boundaries are super important. I was working a lot
What are those?
With some of my nurses about these things, because I feel like nurses don't get that ethics and boundary training that we do in child life. And the Child Life Code of Ethics, we're not allowed to have contact with our patients for 5 years. We can lose our license if we're caught. I don't know how that would actually happen, but so for me, it's not taking patient phone numbers, not being friends with them on Facebook or Instagram. For me, that sets a really good boundary, because it's once you leave the hospital, I'm not going to see you again unless I run into you at Kroger or some grocery store or the park or something. And I feel like a lot of my nurses, working in pediatrics, you get attached to that patient and family. Yes. And then the family, the mom or the dad's oh, can we find you on Facebook or whatnot? And me, I have that hard boundary where I'm no, unfortunately I can't. So trying to coach some of my nurses into that. And it's difficult, but your
licensing organization established that boundary for you.
Yeah.
So it was forced on you. But that might actually be helpful, because you don't have to feel bad. You have to say, no, I'm not allowed to.
Yeah.
So you can, you're not the bad guy.
Right. And think about, you're taking it home with you. If you're going home and you're looking on your phone and you're seeing updates about this patient.
You are 100%. No, I totally agree. I really like that. So, okay, so we always have a tip for new grads, and I
Yeah.
love what you've sent. So I want you to tell us what's your tip for new grads.
So for those of you who don't know Patch Adams, he was an amazing physician. Most people know him as Robin Williams because there was a movie about him.
That's what I was thinking.
But he was a real physician.
He was a
Look
real
him
guy.
up. He was adorable and cute and had a white mustache. But there's a quote that he says where you treat a disease, you win, you lose. You treat a person, I guarantee you'll win no matter what the outcome. So I think it's important to recognize that we are treating people, no matter what stage of life they're in or, how they come through our doors, and that they come with a lot from the outside world into the healthcare environment. So remembering that, treat them as a person and see how you can make their hospitalization better by, leaning on those supports like we were mentioning, art therapy, music therapy if you don't have child life, or a pet therapy program where the dogs come into the hospital, or a chaplain or a social worker. Those psychosocial supports are so important for people's healing because you're not just treating an illness, you're treating a whole person. And it's important to think about, what a person comes into the hospital with besides their illness.
I love it.
It's a good one.
It is a good one. It's a great one. This has been awesome. This has been,
Yeah, so nice to know about.
yeah, I have really enjoyed this. We're we've hit so many important things, and I've just been so excited. I've learned so much, and I can't wait for our listeners to hear it. Any final thoughts for us before you go? We're so glad that you were here, and G was here, and we've got to talk about this because I think, I know some of our pediatric listeners probably do know about child life specialists, but they may not. Like, they may work in a place where, like, it's underutilized. They may not have, some of these smaller places, like rural areas and stuff, they may not have that kind of stuff. But it is so valuable. So the more we talk about it, the more we can get those resources to kids that are sick. So, but yeah, final thoughts for you?
I think just keep doing all the good work you're doing. Remember your why.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Oh,
I love it.
love it.
So, learn about child life specialists, y'all. If you're working in a place and you're seeing kids, or you see a need for a child life specialist where you are, have that conversation. Be a change maker, and realize like how important they are. So, one last thing, as always, we do have our merch store. Check out the Code Brew store at codebrewpodcast.myshopify.com. We are still running that special until the end of the month where you have Brew Crew 10. You can get 10% off your entire order. And I'm actually wearing one of our hoodies right now, and I love it. And I've gotten a lot of compliments. So, as always, stay caffeinated, stay curious, and we'll see you next time on Code Brew.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.